Oh, I'm coming back.
In the Trenches with Ryan Roxie.
Hello, hello, hello. I am Ryan Roxie, and you are now in the trenches. Wow. Welcome to the live stream podcast. We're on just a couple minutes late, but that's okay because our rock star today, he deserves that. He can be as late as he wants to the party. It's fine with me. Hold on. Things are going nuts in my studio, by the way. So welcome to In the Trenches, a live stream podcast. If you are listening to us on Spotify or Apple, please do make your way on over to YouTube or Facebook Live or YouTube Live and hit that subscribe button so you can see our lovely faces, because this is a face you're going to want to see. All right. I've been, I don't fanboy out too much on the show, but I do get a lot of my guitar heroes on the show, and I've been lucky enough to have that. But today is probably the guy that's been pretty much the biggest soundtrack of my life and a lot of yours out there. So I would like to, without even any introduction, I just need to say his name. I don't need to say the band's name, but welcome to In the Trenches, Mr. Rick Nielsen.
Good morning.
Hello, sir.
Hello to you.
Greetings from Stockholm, Sweden to, I'm assuming, Rockford, Illinois.
Yeah, right. My next door neighbor's Swedish.
Is he?
Well, and now you're my next door neighbor now.
We are for the next little time being. Well, Rockford, Illinois is where we're going to start the story, because for those of you that are just tuning in, this is Mr. Rick Nielsen from Rockford, Illinois. I would say America's rock and roll band, Cheap Trick. Yeah, you guys have earned that. And definitely, how are you holding up during all these crazy 2020 times? You doing all right?
Well, what's going on?
Anything different?
Yeah, no. This is the first time I've been not playing for about the last 50 years. So
isn't that crazy?
So here, I better grab my guitar.
Did you grab one? Okay, cool. I got mine too. All right. Which one did you bring out for this one?
65 Lake Placid Blue Stratocaster.
Oh my God. I brought out I have a 70, this is a 78 Les Paul Cherry Burst.
I've got some of those too.
I know you do. You got the good stuff. We're going to talk about that awesome guitar collection, because that is one of those things that not very many people have, but you have more than many, I would say. You've been collecting.
That was all.
Well, let me ask you this, Rick. Wikipedia says that the band has been playing about 3,700 shows. And I'm not a big wiki guy. I went down the rabbit hole and do the research. I think you've played way more than that in your career.
We're approaching 6,000 shows.
6,000. Wow.
We've been saying 5,000 for the last 15 years.
5,000 shows since they've been keeping stats. You see, there was many years where they weren't keeping stats, I'm sure.
Well, we started playing when we came across America in the stagecoach. So we've been around for a while.
Coal-powered guitars and stuff like that. I love those early coal-powered. Maybe you could show us some of those in your collection. But you guys busted out of the Chicago rock scene. So, I mean, I have this segment in the podcast where I say you got to go back to go forward. But when I say these names, and I don't know if they're trigger words for you, but if I was to say sort of other band names in that scene before you guys came on and completely dominated it, what would you think of if I was to say names like Randy Hogan, or if I was to say, like Fuse, and that was your first band with Tom, exact? Am I right with that?
Well, we were actually called the Grim Reapers before that.
Okay.
But yeah, sure. I mean, I'm still playing with Tom. I'm actually doing a session with him later today or tomorrow, and so we're still speaking,
which is a good thing. Good thing. I mean, there has been, like I said, doing research for this podcast, because this for me was not just like any other podcast. You have been part of my music, sort of my soundtrack of my life for many, many years. I've been trying to rewrite Surrender in one way or another for many, many years. And, but
me too.
it's a great formula. It's got the modulation. It's got everything that you need in it, right?
I'll play it right now.
How come you're not plugged into an app, Rick? We need that.
I don't want to ruin the continuity of my lousy productions. So.
I think your production is fine right now. But the bands, okay, I was looking at my notes because I was thorough, man. When I was saying the other bands that were probably in that scene, right? Maybe after the Grim Reapers or right before Cheap Trick, before you guys started to dominate Chicago and play more than just bowling alleys and bar mitzvahs. There was bands like Off Broadway, the Pez Band, the Thumbs. Do all those names, are those trigger words, or are those kind of bands you go, oh yeah, they were in that scene?
Yeah, I think it was Pez Band that was probably the best of that lot in that era. But I used to see Rudy Sarzo playing at bands too. He was they were all Cubans, and it's like.
Was Rudy part of the sort of the Chicago rock scene? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, he used to play. He used to come and see us play all the time. Let's see, Off Broadway, the Thumbs, Pez Band. Pez Band was the one that I knew most about.
And that have Cliff Johnson from Off Broadway.
I just tried to buy one of Tommy Gwenda's guitars not long ago, but he went and sold it with out from under me.
I actually heard that Pete Comita sold that 12-string sort of Explorer bass, and I thought maybe you might have been the one that bought it.
I would have, but I didn't know about it. You living out in LA right now?
I believe he is. I didn't go that far down the Cheap Trick rabbit hole and the sort of legacy of it, but I just wanted to actually, because I was thinking a bunch of different angles, and there's probably hasn't been a question that you haven't been asked ever in like the thousands of interviews and podcasts that you have been doing over the years. But I kind of wanted to make it more of a celebration of basically everything that Cheap Trick has kind of brought to American pop culture, because you guys have been very instrumental in many of the popular things that have happened and shaped rock and roll music throughout the years. People might not realize it. You've just always been there.
Yeah, we've had plenty of failure. Yeah, that's correct.
Well, dude, you are the definition of persistence.
Of failure.
No, of persistence, man. Which is ultimately it pays off, because look at you. You've lived the rock star life. It's like the story of the turtle and the hare. The hair bands, I get it. The hair bands didn't last. They didn't get to last as long as playing as many gigs in as many different venues as you have for decades and decades. So
there's a good thing and a bad thing, I think. But it's like I kind of kid around with this line, but it's like we're too dumb to quit. It's like we like what we do, and we're lucky that we get to play. But now, we're in the same boat as everybody else. It's like you and with Alice Cooper and with Cheap Trick. It's like we got to start over again.
We got to pivot. We definitely have to pivot and find a different thing. But you know what? The thing is, we might be in the same boat, but you're in the upper cabin. At least you have, like your own separate, off-suite bathroom in that in that boat.
Oh, goody.
Because you worked hard for it, though, to be honest with you, because I just wanted to go over just a couple things to like sort of celebrate, the 70s, that 70s song, the theme song that's for so many years, Well,
we did, it's like when they did that 70s show, they called me and they said, well, we'd like to either use, I think it's called In the Streets, the Alex Chilton song, or we want to use Surrender, one of those. And they said, they thought about it. They said, well, now we don't want to do it. And then after the first year the TV show was on, they said, well, I guess we made a mistake, because we'd like to get to do, we should have used Surrender, but now we have to
Stick with this one.
You had to stick with it, and plus we had to use the same. They had it all. Framed out for the song to fit. So we had to do the same song, but we tried to do a little different arrangement, and we added the "We're All Right" at part at the end, which we've done it in Surrender for
of course, it's a little nod to the hit.
Yeah, nod to ourselves or whatever. And
why not?
Yeah. And so
but
then
for the quintessential Cheap Trick.
Yeah, the rest of the TV was for as long as the back was on the air. They used that, so it's like we were on there, and that helped us get a phone call from Stephen Colbert, and he wanted a song for his TV show, and so I wrote the song. We called it "Baby Mumbles," but it was like da 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 da, and what that is I want you to want me backwards. We did that.
That's your trick. Just take the same riff, forward it, and fast and rewind it, and make it sideways.
So that way we would sue ourselves if it was.
I've been trying. Like I told you, man, I've been trying to rewrite Surrender for years. It hasn't worked yet, but damn it! But you had many other sound. But you had many other songs in soundtracks, and just a couple of them that I wanted to go over just to like make, it's a cool thing to have. Up the Creek, you had a great soundtrack song in that, which is a very funny movie.
It wasn't a great song, but
wasn't a great movie.
Yeah, it was.
It wasn't a great movie. So you played to the level of the competition on that one, I think.
Yeah, we've been in a lot of different stuff. I'm really lucky that we got picked. I mean, we did I wrote the international song for Pepsi years ago, but it only got played outside the U.S., so nobody really heard it here.
So you wrote the international version of the Pepsi theme song.
Yeah.
Okay, what was it called? Just Do It, or what was your tagline for that?
See.
Yeah, you're hearing it first.
Nothing else in a Pepsi, something like that. There was 3 different versions, and the one they picked was like about my third favorite of the 3. Wow! And then we were in Top Gun, and we were in. I just saw a thing called Grown Ups. I think it was Grown Ups.
Yeah, that show's great too.
And here was Adam Sandler sliding down a water slide while they're doing. Just Got Back. It's like,
Got Back off the All Shook Up album. But I remember getting a 45 back in the day when the 10-inch came out of the Cheap Trick 10-inch and there was a 45 in it that had Everything Works If You Let It. That was from Roadie, right?
Yeah. Everything works if you let it. Let it in your heart. It was a girl of his dreams.
So anyhow, I want to, all those things are great, but for me, and I'm not sure for you, and maybe for some of our listeners in the chat right now, because again, you're listening to YouTube Live or Facebook Live, just hit that subscribe button. We appreciate all your comments that are coming here. We have Rick Nielsen from the band Cheap Trick. We are sort of celebrating the soundtrack of our lives with him and how much Cheap Trick has brought to the American pop cultures. And apparently now he just told me the international pop culture by writing the Pepsi theme song internationally. But for me, it was the biggest moment for me was that you got such street cred from Damone in Fast Times at Ridgemont High, right?
Yeah, well, somebody did.
At that moment, for me, it's like I can recite that line, and there he is. There's Damone right there, giving you credit as you do.
Yeah, I just saw under there's a Suze Phillips says Transformers soundtrack too. We were on that too. Yeah,
that's cool, man.
That was cool. Fast Times at Ridgemont High. We knew Christopher Crowe and Cameron Crowe. There were 2 different Crowe people, but he liked us, I guess, enough.
Were they brothers, or just non-related by name, or what?
Well, the one guy wrote Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and the other guy came up with our logo in about 1974. He was actually the producer of The Last of the Mohicans, and
really?
and what was the other one? Was Johnny Depp, the Elliot Ness one. I don't know what it's called. But
wasn't Cameron Crowe had something to do with the Fast Times at Ridgemont High? Because I think at the time the reason why Nancy Wilson was in that show is because they were dating, and that's the reason how
they weren't just dating. They were past the date stage.
Yeah, I know. You got to tour. I'm sure you toured many times with Heart.
Yeah, but I never dated them.
You never dated either of them. Okay. Now, you've always been a straight shooter guy. I know. You know. By the way, how's Karen? She doing good?
Good. She said to say hi.
I'll tell her. Tell her I said hello, and the whole Nielsen clan. You guys are a big group. 4 of y'all.
Yeah. How many? I'm an only child, but now, I think I won't even tell you what I did. But now I got 4 kids, four spousal equivalents, and 12 grandkids.
Wow, the grandkids. Well, that wasn't really your doing. That was just, that just happened. You just planted the seed in a weird way. I mean, yeah, I know. I walked into that one. I'm an only child too. I never knew that about you, Rick. I didn't know that you were only child. So
Yep. So
maybe if that's our soundbite, that's what we get to get onto Blabbermouth, that you were an only child. That's what we do.
We can commiserate together. I always say it's like being an only child. You have to learn how to play with yourself.
Which I did really well. Everyone always says, there it is. That's Rick Nielsen's, and that's the famous one of his iconic guitars. But let me dispel a rumor for you, because I'm left-handed. And I don't know if you're left-handed as well, but I'm left-handed, and I always thought that because I have all the coordination in my left hand, I was doing it the right way, because all this hand did with the pick was go up and down, and I was already practiced and really a professional at going up and down by the time I really took guitar seriously. So
yeah, if you want to say it like that, yeah. Practice going up and down. That's how it works. So we got in trouble. But yeah, I don't know. It's like being if you're from Sweden, that helps you. Where the Swedes, it's like, never mind. I'll tell you about that later.
You got it. I want to move on with the accolades of what Cheap Trick has brought to American pop culture, because you were in 2016 part of the 2016 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees, and you guys, I think, were the top of the class at that point. But you had some cool bands to go in it. There's a great picture of it. I don't see Dax in there somewhere. Vic, our producer, there it is, of you guys performing. And now, that whole experience with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, how are you sitting with that? Because you came in with some great acts. You came in with the Cars, Chicago, especially you actually got inducted with NWA.
Yeah, how about that? I invited. I wanted them to play, to play together, because they walked out and they got the hey, we were at NWA and thank you, Black. I don't even know if they said thank you, but it's like I wanted to play with them, and I also wanted to play with Richie Blackmore, because he wouldn't play with Deep Purple, but I said we don't care. I mean, I liked Richie. We did some tour dates together with Rainbow years ago. Everybody said he was such a mean and tough guy. I mean, he liked me, but it's like I'm easy to hate too. So it's like
I don't know, man. You're a pretty likable guy, dude.
We didn't get Richie didn't call, and then. Yeah, but it was quite an honor. I think quite an honor to be there, and quite an honor to get chosen to be in that. And now when I go to the grocery store, people say, "Oh, aren't you? Is that to be plastic or paper?" It's like,
or Hall of Famer.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you know what? The thing that sets it one notch up, and I just found this out too by doing my stellar research. Me and our In the Trenches team of top notch.
They are so tough.
Yeah, we got a staff, man. Let me tell you, they're doing good. But the thing is, I was just informed, and I found out myself, that your music was inducted into the Smithsonian. Now, how did that work out? When did that go? So your music is now going to be timeless into the Smithsonian Institute, or what does that mean?
It's something like that. Actually, it's the Library of Congress, and actually, somebody that. A girl that worked for my parents at my parents' store. She's now the chief librarian and in Rockford school system, and she put out a petition and went to the Library of Congress. It's like, I had nothing to do with it, and but we got nominated, and before you knew it, we're in it with some great people. It's like, how'd we get in there? But it's like, that's quite an honor too.
Of course it is. Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I say it's so much part of our history and the history of rock and roll. But what happens with that music? Does it go into some sort of vault, or does it get sent up in one of Elon Musk's rockets and sent to Mars, or what happens?
I want to go in that too. Hey, Elon, I'm looking for a Tesla too. You gave me a good question. But I'm trying to think. It's like, yeah, it's forever in the Library of Congress, whatever that actually is. I mean, it's got things like the Martin Luther King speech is in there. The soundtrack or of the baseball game, the World Series. I mean, it's like all kinds of Babe Ruth hitting just all kinds of different pieces.
So I Want You to Want Me will be right next to Martin Luther's speech, which is, I have a dream. I want you to want me. I like it.
Ryan, you are the best.
I come up with those campaign slogans right there for you, buddy. I should say congratulations, by the way. And I know this news just came out today, but congrats as well, because this all kind of goes within the trenches. Because folks, if you haven't found out by now, we're sitting here with Rick Nielsen from the band Cheap Trick, the most persistent rock and roll band in America. They've been doing it for decades and decades. And congratulations on landing this huge new publishing deal that you just signed.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't read it. Somebody told me that
came in the news today.
Really? Because I got a text from Dax this morning. Said, "Congratulations!" I said, I'm just reading it. I said, "Well, I haven't read it yet." So what?
And can you really trust everything you read these days? Who knows? Maybe it's fake. Tell me it's not fake news. Tell me it's not fake news.
Oh, it's just all good news. You're trying to figure out, I don't know. But it's like, yeah, it was a publishing deal. This company Mojo Music, Mojo Media, they would promote some of the songs I wrote and some of the Cheap Trick songs and Cheap Trick, some of the stuff I did. And they've got some nice plans for it. It's like, that's what I do. I'm a songwriter. I'm not really a great guitar player like you are, Ryan.
Well, come on, man. I learned from you. Basically, I learned from all your records. So I'm only. Trust me, man. I've been trying to write my songs as well, but I don't have 400 of them, and I don't have this new deal with Mojo. Although I will take the call. Mark Freed did actually give a really good press release about it. And for those that are listening, how does that whole publishing work in like literally 5 seconds? Like they're basically watching out for your songs, placing them in things so that basically nobody rips it off and you make a lot of money, right? In a nutshell.
I like that. I'll just use that. Yeah, Mark's a pretty cool guy. And it's like they have ideas where they take your lyrics or what the meaning of the song or the actual song, and how can this be used in other ways? I mean, it's like a song is a good song is a good song. A bad song is a good song if you use it a lot.
That's a great quote. You're right.
Yeah, read that back to me because I don't remember that.
Don't worry, we have it on tape. I know, and I'll get Vic to make sure this is going to transcribe it.
It's like when people say, "Oh yeah, I love Cheap Trick," I said, we've done like 300 or 400 songs. I said, even I can name about 8 of them. So it's like it's good to. I've always liked to be exploited in the right way, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You've always been that entertainer, though, ever since the early days. And I'm like, just a real quick step back to Fuse and the band before you found Robin. Did that idea of coming up with this? I don't even know what you call it, because you could the good looking college, like, I guess now he would be like a gamer. He would be like a computer gamer, the character of what Rick Nielsen was right at that point. Because he wasn't this naughty schoolboy of Angus Young, but he was definitely his kind of older brother. or maybe his cousin that actually was a little bit smarter and but was just as wacky. Now, were the comparisons, because you know what's funny? As a kid growing up listening to both bands and being a fan of both bands, I never saw any sort of similarity, because to me, that AC/DC was AC/DC, Cheap Trick was my favorite band. So I didn't find that much of a difference between the two of you. But now looking back, I'm going, well, you did both have some sort of an image, of a cartoonish image in that sense. Now, who did someone take it from somebody, or was it all just synergy at the same time?
Well, I wasn't good looking like you, but it always looks like, in Cheap Trick, we're just musicians, and we were never tried to be something we weren't. It's like I was always kind of like the guy that got in trouble in high school and junior high school. I was straight A's and first chair on 2 instruments in 7th grade, and I was thrown out of the Rockford school system music program for life in 7th grade. And my parents owned a music store, blah blah blah, all kinds of stuff. Because I said to the band director, I said, "Mr. Bishel, you're an incompetent, drunken fool who doesn't deserve to teach music to me or anybody else." And boom, I was thrown out right then. And it was the last I had anything to do with the music system in the public school system, music programs, for life. And it's like, I said, I tell people that's the last time I told the truth, because I got in trouble with it. Basically, it's kind of true. But it was like, I couldn't keep my mouth shut when somebody was doing which I thought was the wrong thing. My parents are opera singers, so it's like, I knew not the music I wanted to do, but I knew a right note from a wrong note, an F sharp from a G flat. So I knew the difference in some of that stuff. And so I got in trouble, but then a few years later, now I'm in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I mean, it's like,
I guess you have the last laugh on that one.
So I guess, and about 40 years later, after all that, I was at a program that they did for the school that I went to, the junior high school program. And they had me, they had John B. Anderson, who ran for president, Dr. Timothy Johnson, who was a TV morning doctor on ABC TV, and me as the host of this thing. And it's like, I said, what'd they get the me there for levity? These guys are pretty important people. And I said, well, then the principal that was at the school when I was there, who I thought was ancient at the time, he was still alive. He came over and I said, "Mr. Hewlick," I said, you didn't mention the Mr. Weedle, the head of Dean of Boys. He says, "Rick, you were right."
That's an amazing.
My parents had passed away. All is forgiven.
It's, you know what, Rick, the thing that really trips me out is that I have a similar story of a German guitar teacher that when I was about, maybe a little bit younger than 7th grade, I was probably maybe in 6th grade, 5th grade. No, it wasn't. It was a different, but he kind of taught the class like that. And I remember leaving a music store because it was a private group lesson, right? And I remember him saying to my mom, just loud enough so I could hear it, he should really learn another instrument because he'll never do anything with the guitar. And so we both have this very young age, this sort of person that kind of shuts us down. We could have peaked at 7th grade, but then, you go on
you get to work with Alice Cooper every night. I only get to see him once in a while.
Yeah, but he's a great guy to work with.
And yes, I think I agree with you. I should have been playing with AC/DC. We loved doing the shows with those guys. We were both doing about the same at the time. We do flip-flop shows. There it goes. Cheap Trick and AC/DC with Bon Scott first played together. No, that wasn't when we first played together. But nope. But
when was the first time? Can you remember the first time? Was it before that? Because you guys were. Oh
yeah, it was 78 that we toured together, and we went all over the place. I mean, I took Bon Scott to the first time he ever ate Mexican food. He had a taco and a glass of scotch. And I had both Malcolm and Angus came to my house in Rockford, and then the last time that I saw Malcolm alive was and with Angus I flew down to Nashville to see their last show of the tour there, and he says, "Hey, Rick, you still living in Rockford?" Yeah, he goes, "Yeah, I am." I love those guys. They were the best band we ever played with.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I knew that there had to be some sort of camaraderie back in those days between all you guys, at least being the posters on my wall. That's the way I imagined things being. And I felt that there was this huge camaraderie. And I think Cheap Trick has always been that sort of band that other bands come to see. Am I right with that?
Yeah, well, yeah. It's like, yeah, they're one of the few bands, right? You know, I love their music so much. They were so powerful. And it's like, and it was just no nonsense stuff. It was just like the songs. It was just like, thank God they never had any slow ballads or anything like that. You know, it's like it was just like balls to the wall, start to finish. And Bon Scott, he was the original heavy duty pirate rock and roll scallywag or whatever they were called. You know, yeah. It was just they were the real deal. There's no monkey business, no fluffed out Ryan Roxie hair.
No 80s or 90s Ryan Roxie hair and dreadlocks, and now it's slowly paying the price for it right now. That's why I wear a hat. Yeah, but here we are, folks. We're talking with Rick Nielsen, throwing amazing compliments onto the AC/DC, which I always say is the Bon Scott era AC/DC. Although I love Brian Johnson as well, I do think that those early records with Bon were the best, and you were also a fan too. So, yeah, I mean, God, man, but we're not here to talk about ACD as much. We're here to talk. We're talking about the sort of celebration of the American pop impact that you've had, and oh my God. There's that first album. Okay. Our producer just put this album out, and I'm actually wearing it on my chest today. But there's a thing that Alice Cooper likes to say. He says, never let the truth get in the way of a good story. Right. So there's some rumors and myths that I would kind of like to move into with this segment called Never Let the Truth Get into the way of a good story. That album cover, Vic, if you can put it up again. Can you confirm for me, Rick Nielsen, is that album cover that you're holding in your hand on that album cover a Fuse album?
No, it's not a Fuse album. It's a picture of Tom and I, actually shot by the photographer I'd known for a long time. It's Rich Kwasniewski is the guy's name. And he just came to my house like a week or so, last week. And it's me playing an accordion. And Tom is looking inside his jacket for something. I'm not sure what it was. I always like the idea of when you look at something, there's more to it than just the picture. And it's like when we did, I think it was Heaven Tonight. On Heaven Tonight, it's like if you look at the back, look at the inside I'm brushing my teeth with a checkerboard toothbrush. There it is, and with a checkerboard toothbrush, you look in the back there. That's a postcard of In Color in my back pocket.
Never saw that before, Rick. Honestly, for those of you that are listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any of the other platforms, please pull your car over right now and sign on to YouTube or Facebook Live and check this out right now, because we are dispelling myths right now. I never saw that before, honestly, Rick. That's cool.
Well, see, now that you know the greatest fact on earth,
I can't unsee it now.
Well, go take a look at it when you're not driving. No texting while driving, and no looking at Cheap Trick albums that have been out for 40 years and try to drive at the same time. So.
Never gets tired, though. Never gets tired. So another myth or sort of mystery that I want to solve today with this Never Let the Truth Get in the Way of a Good Story is you actually have played on an Alice Cooper album before.
Let's see.
Is everything good?
Hey, Ryan, Karen just walked in.
Oh, make sure you say hello. Karen, you want to make an appearance on the podcast? It's fine with us.
She can't wait.
All right. Well, just tell her we said hello. Hello, Karen. How you doing, darling?
Good. How are you?
We're doing good. Hey, everybody. Everybody in the chat right now, say hello to Rick's wife, lovely wife, Karen, right now. Do you want to bring the other 4 kids and maybe the grandchildren too, as well?
I don't live here anymore.
Oh, wow.
At least not 24/7.
That's amazing.
Okay, bye, Karen.
Gotta go. Sorry.
No problem, Karen. I want
to. You're better to be talking to her than me, but there's two.
But she wouldn't know about this session though, and I think you can. There it is. People saying hello on the chat to Karen.
Yeah. Sylvia Rivera. More people are talking to her. Yeah, look at it.
Everyone's lighting up talking to Karen.
Yeah.
We just broke the internet with Karen. So, do you remember that session and the album From the Inside that you played with Alice Cooper and the song Serious? Yeah,
I do. And actually, when I came to see you guys last year, you guys played it. And I was over on the side there. It's like, God, that was pretty good. And it's like, it's a tough arrangement too. And I went to see, I think we were at Cherokee Studios in LA.
Really?
Yeah, that's where it was. That's where we did it. And Alice, it was with David Foster.
Yes.
Yeah, it was David Foster. And it's like, once again here, I'm Rick from Cheap Trick from Illinois, and here I am playing a session with all these guys. And I'd actually seen Alice at a place called Lowly's in Chicago. There was maybe 20 people there, and there's a place that Grim Reapers had played too. It was like just this kind of awful big bar.
Yep.
It had a balcony on it, and it's like, and I remember seeing Alice Cooper there. It was like that was the real early Alice Cooper.
Oh yeah, I'm no stranger to 20-person club gigs. Trust me. Yeah. I've done my share. I've done my share.
We got that same thing. 20, and that's a lot. That's a big crowd today.
Well, at least it's legal now to have a gig. I said if I did a solo tour, I'd be all under the limits, and I could actually do it.
Really? You can play with yourself again.
There you go. It's all back to that. Is it this? That's not the reoccurring theme of that. But so when you moved, it's a funny story that you recorded that at Cherokee Studios, because that was my first, when I first moved to Los Angeles, that was my first job that I ever got, was working the night shift of Cherokee Studios. And this was back in the day. It might have been a little bit later than those days that you're talking about, but bands like Motley Crue and Crocus and those types of bands were all that were probably produced by Tom Weirman, who is one of the bigger producers in your guys' career that made a lot of big records for you guys. He was producing a lot of albums out of there. And let me tell you, cleaning up those rooms in those studios, because I had the graveyard shift, just cleaning up those rooms at night kept me up, because I was able to sort of clean up the rooms, and there was just stuff lying around that would keep me up all night, just so you know.
Oh, really? Again, I recorded an album there with Gene Simmons too. Is at Cherokee. Solo? Yeah, his solo record.
You played on that?
Yep, I played on that too.
Okay, man. You've been.
How about that, huh?
All right.
You must have known Khan, right?
Well, dude, there's so you're just giving. You should be a spokesman for the pentatonic scale. Then I think it's really important, because that's what I am.
That last picture you had up there was me playing with Butch Vig and Dave Grohl.
Okay, man.
Yeah,
so that's the thing. I think you remember like pretty much everything, and you can remember
a picture of, so I can jar my memory.
But hey, man, it's working, and that's the reason why we have our top-notch producer Vic giving these photos the whole time. Moving on to these producers that I just wanted to talk about, because you've worked with the best. I mean, you've worked with the absolute friggin' best. Jack Douglas produced your debut, and here's another little rumor that I'd like to dispel now that it's just me and you here for a little while. Did Jack record the tracks for In Color, but then Tom Weirman mixed them, or were they re-recorded? How did that work out? Because there was a switch from Jack Douglas to Tom Weirman, and you can definitely hear it in the booth in the two.
Yeah, well, Jack Douglas did our first record, and we did that in New York. We did, I think, 26 songs in 7 days, something like that. And but we only used 10 of the tracks. Then when we went to do the second album, we got Tom Werman. Second, third, and fourth albums was Tom Werman, Tom was supposed to go to Japan with us to work to do, which ended up to be the Live at Budokan record, but he didn't want to.
Something happened in Japan. I wasn't aware. Could you tell me about that?
People, they thought Ryan Roxie was going to come there, so he didn't want to go there. Werman didn't, and we took it back to the U.S. And Jack Douglas and myself and Bunny actually mixed the Live at Budokan record, which was actually twice as long as what the album that came out was. We only used half the tracks, and Jack did that. So no, the In Color was not done by Jack. But then later, we decided we wanted to redo the In Color album, and we did that in Chicago with Steve Albini. We spent our own money. It was never really released, but we just wanted to. The songs were good, but we thought we thought it needed some flushing out, as they say.
Yeah, I mean, I can hear the difference. I love the album, obviously, because like back in those days when I was telling you, when I worked at Cherokee Studios, I would take a cassette copy of In Color and just crank it out over those big studio speakers, which was quite fun, you know. And but moving on, like Roy Thomas Baker.
How about that?
You know, the producer of Queen and Cars, obviously, who you got nominated in with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You started out with Todd Rundgren way back in the day, right?
Yeah, we worked with Todd too, and I just saw him again recently. He's always been, you know, like one of the A-list of guys. You know, so you ever listen to the Locomotion?
The old version.
Well, no, the Locomotion by Grand Funk Railroad, I think it was.
Okay, yeah, they had a hit with it.
It's one of the best sounding records out there, and Todd did that. And then before we did those, you know, we worked with. You mentioned Everything Works If You Let It. That was with Sir George Martin, who then it's the same. I can't remember. It's the same time or right before, or right after that we did the All Shook Up album with him.
Right. I was getting to George Martin because.
Well, you jumped ahead, so I'm just.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm not doing it. This interview is not in chronological order because we have a producer that will cut it all up.
Yeah, you never saw the In Color in my back pocket on the back of Heaven Tonight, and now there's two things you don't know in this world.
Okay, explain to me the All Shook Up album cover, because that was a little bit, I guess people were calling it psychotic Led Zeppelin, but that album cover I tried to figure out at one point, and I was like, I gave up because I liked the look. For me, it was a throwback to a bit like first album lo-fi production, but it had that.
Well, I tried to do through pictures the song titles. And it's like me, I'm a songwriter, but you don't want to hear me sing it. You want to hear Robin sing it. You know, it's like I'm good at certain stuff, but I'm not so good at the other stuff. You want to hear Robin sing it because he's a great singer, and I'm in the band too. So
no, you're a hell of a harmonist. I hear you on all these old TV. Like I said earlier today, I went down that rabbit hole. I heard a lot of old TV performances, live TV performances before people just taped everything. And Rick was singing all these really high harmonies and this spot on.
And I can still do the baby voices stuff.
Baby loves to rock.
That's me.
Yeah, I know. So, what was it like the first time you heard Robin's voice? Like, because you had another singer in the band. You had Zeno. I'm sorry, Randy Zeno Hogan. You had him in the band, but then what happens the first time you hear Robin? You go, "This is my guy. I'm sticking with him."
Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, I've always been a songwriter more than I'm no virtuoso on guitar. When I like songs, and it's like I always wanted to have that voice. I mean, I worked with some great people, but Robin was the guy that could do it all. He could sing the ballads. He can sing he could be Mr. Nasty. He could be Mr. Sweet. And it's like that's what's a real songwriting. I think, or I thought it was the fact that you could be more diverse than just one thing, and he could handle all that stuff.
Was there ever a time that the two of you guys were you would have to tell him to play rhythm guitar because he actually plays really good rhythm, but obviously I look at him as sort of like a good looking Kurt Cobain in that sense of that he just commands the stage with his voice. He's got the voice of rock. And when did you decide when he was going to play guitar and when he wasn't, or was that his decision?
Being a 3-piece band, 3-piece guitar, bass, drums, and a vocalist, we needed all that, all the musical power we could have. So Robin, he can play fine lead, he can play fine rhythm, and we don't play the same, which is like that's what kind of fills in stuff. It's not like we were both playing exactly the same thing. If he has a song, he comes up with his, here's how the thing goes. It's like I don't have the same feel he doesn't. He doesn't have the same feel I do. It's like so it's really it just sounds cooler, at least in our eyes, and like in the vocals too. It's like if we had every voice was as good as his, it wouldn't sound so good, at least to us. But the fact that I have this raspy but in tune voice along with his good voice, we sound like we mean it.
Well, what's interesting to me is that you guys have that relationship, singer guitar player, that not a lot of bands from that era had, because if you're talking about like Steven Tyler and Joe Perry, there's a lot of drama going on. Any sort of singer, lead guitar player, Axl Slash, there's always been a bit of drama. The two of you have always maintained, and I know there's probably drama going on because trust me, folks, after going down the rabbit hole of research, there's been a lot of drama in Cheap Trick. I know you've had, you've had issues with management, you've had issues with band members, but the one thing that did happen at one point is that Tom did leave the band briefly, or not briefly, it was actually quite a while, and you had Pete and John Brandt both fill in. And when Pete came into the band, he almost looked so much, it was like an episode of Johnny Bravo of the Brady Bunch, of like he almost looked identical to Tom, but he was a guitar player. But I didn't realize that he played with John Brandt, and eventually John Brandt became in as the bass player in that.
Here's a fact. The fact that you lived out in L.A., every time we come to L.A. and we drive up on La Cienega, we drive by this one place and said, oh, 2 ex-bass players from Cheap Trick Liquor Store. There's a place called John and Pete's.
That's great. I got to check that out.
I think it's called John and Pete's, but it's like, we call it the 2 ex-bass players from Cheap Trick Liquor Store.
But
stop in and just tell them I said hi.
Was it a tumultuous time during that time? Because I know that every band has their band drama and stuff like that. But the thing with the thing with Tom, was there a bit of tumultuousness, and it was kind of like you guys had been together for so long, and then break, coming back?
Well, that's one of the benefits of being an only child like you and I are. We don't have to deal. We don't have any real brothers or sisters, so we have to. So our brothers and sisters are the guys we play with, and it's like, well, you know how that goes. It's like, well, the daughter, the wife of this guy doesn't want to. It's like it's so confusing. It's like, so I thought I'd really confuse it by being married for 50 years and having 12 grandkids. So now I really don't know what's going on. I don't know. What was the question?
No, the question was, I wanted to get a little bit into that, the little tumultuous stuff, because nobody really talks about it. A lot of people talk about the, I know that Dax is in the band now, and that there's been, Bunny's part of it, of the whole circle and the umbrella, and always will be. But Dax Nielsen is your drummer now when you're touring, and of course now we're all sort of isolated at home and stuff. But my feeling was not a lot of people. I didn't know that Pete Comita and John Brandt were in a band together, and I didn't. Yeah. So that just kind of had tripped me out. And I think it was the Thumbs. I think that was the band that they were.
It's like when Pete came to play with us, he was driven by John to my house to get. It's like, what? I didn't know all that stuff. It's like, you can't make this crap up.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But that goes back to the saying of like, it really is, be nice to your band members, because you never know who's going to get you the same gig, even you're in the same band, right?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Well, there you go. Vic's putting up a lot of great photos, and I really appreciate you hanging out with me, Rick, all this time. If you have a little bit more time, we have a segment of the show called "Let the People Speak," and this is where people have asked some really cool questions, and they'd like to them answer it. Yeah, there you go. Two amazing rockers. That's us. But if you don't mind,
they took it down because I think it said something about Larry. It was
did it? What
Larry
was that, Vic?
Yeah, for Melrose.
Oh, that's Larry. That's Melrose Larry Green. Hey, thanks for watching, man. I really appreciate it.
My guitar tech was Larry Malero.
Is that
Melrose Larry Green?
Are you wearing your guitar tech on your chest? My guitar tech's going to be. I'm wearing you guys, but he's going to be very jealous about that.
He passed away a couple of years ago.
Okay.
He was like my last guy. I was hoping to have. Actually, I just his wife was selling all this stuff, and I just bought Larry's collection of 92 foot pedals.
Wow!
Bought all they had.
So now you have,
and I don't use foot pedals, so it's like.
Oh my God. Before we get into this, let the people speak, I want to just briefly talk about your equipment because I mean, I was at your house one night. I know you remember because it was like probably the third or fourth time you've gotten the key to the city of Rockford, but we did a show, we were on tour, and Eric Singer and I were able to go to your house, and you basically showed me a little bit of your vault of the guitar. And I remember you telling me to go under a couch and pull out a case. And you said, be careful with the case. It's worth about $15,000, just the case. And it was like a 1958, like an original 1958 Flying V, right?
Yep, we got them. That's the way to do it.
Oh my God. So now you have all these stomp boxes and stuff that would rival Bob Rock's sort of stomp box collection, I'm sure.
Yeah, 92 of them, my guys. There's like 5 huge boxes that shipped from LA to my house, and so yeah. But I wanted to help Larry's wife out because it's like it's terrible things for him to pass away, and she's stuck with all that stuff. I tell people it's like whenever I croak, wait for my wife. She'll be selling everything I got it for $1. So stick around.
No, they're all going into the Library of Congress or something like that.
Right. No, they're in the Library of never mind.
Well, one of the guys from our team, the Rat, we call him the Rat, Dave Rattenbury. He wanted to know what your of your guitar collection. Do you have? Because not a lot of people know about what a like massive guitar collection that you do have. Probably what over 100 guitars.
I have about 500.
Yeah, there you go. See, don't believe Wikipedia, folks. They've played more than 3,700 shows. They played 6,000. He's got more.
Good looking too, so you can't believe that.
So you got about 500 guitars. So this question is going to be really, really, really hard to answer. Do you have a couple go-tos? Do you have a couple favorites?
Well, probably the rarest ones I have is a 1963 Guild Merle Travis. If you go by any Guitar Center, if you see there's a guitar that I'm playing, because they had this big, huge blow up of it. Or they only made 3 of these in 1963, and I've got the second one ever made. It's called the Guild Merle Travis. They were $2,000 then. So that's one you can probably see. It's a lot, like I said, a lot of the Guitar Centers. Otherwise, in 1958, Gibson made the Explorer, which is. I'm sure you got pictures of the stuff there, but it's like,
oh yeah, I got
19 of them, and I have 2 of them, and I have a third one actually that was I believe made by what's his name, Max. That's it, and because they're as rare as whatever, and those things. The last one that sold was $1.1 million for one of them, and. But I didn't pay that. I bought. I'm a musician. I'm supposed to be poor. So I bought stuff. And I traded to get things. That's how I got my first Les Paul that I still have today. I paid $65 for it in 1965. So it was a 55. They were 10 years old then, and they were only $200 new. And so I paid for a 10-year-old used guitar $65, and I still have it.
Shit. Well, good for you. Good for you for saving it. Speaking of 1958, because this is actually Gear Geeks and Equipment Freaks, and you got a bunch of publishing money to spend. 1958, the Flying V comes out, the Gibson Explorer comes out.
I got 3 of those too.
A mystical third guitar, the Moderne. Do you own a Moderne?
No, we just call it modern, but the E was on for the
No,
French.
in Sweden, it's pronounced Moderne. Just so you know.
You're not you're in Sweden. In Rockford, they call it modern.
Yeah, I can always blame everything on Sweden. When I fuck something up, I just say, "Oh yeah, well in Sweden we do it like that." But tell us about the Moderne.
Very good. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I have, but not. It's not the prototype one. It's the one that I have from later because I don't think
reissue.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's got that except supposedly Billy Gibbons did. I saw that one. I saw it in Japan years ago, probably 40 years ago, at a guitar store there. It was a real stripped down modern, but it was not. I don't know exactly what it was. It's like one that didn't exist.
Do you think it could have been? Because that's the mystery of all guitars. That's sort of the you know.
Well, it's like the Explorers. I mean, they made 19 of them, and so I have 3 with the original cases. I mean, you can't even find the original cases for anything. But it's like, so I mean, some people that had it, I've seen some that are just beat to shit, that are just gorgeous to me. But it's like, but the cases are gone, and the one that one of these guys had, they found it. The guy had it out in his front yard in a bag. And it's like, you can't make up his junk. It was so cheap. So nobody wanted them back then. But
didn't they put them up as like sort of like window displays? That's the whole reason they were supposed to be made in the first place, right?
Well, kind of. But one of the things was about that's why I actually have one of my 58 Les Pauls. And it's actually a 59. They put it as a display in a music store in Canada, and so the sunburst finish all faded away.
Wow, to like a yellow burst or something like that. Wow,
now you pay extra money to have it relic like that.
No, I know. Like this. Well, this is from '78, so this actually has a nice weird finish. Here, this is something a little bit original that you might see. It's got the sunburst neck and headstock. How about that? Yeah. The things they would do in 1978.
So you're much younger than I am, so it's like
not that much.
To you, that's an old guitar. To me, that's brand new to me.
All right, mister. I'm going to ask you just a couple questions, and I'm going to need some honest answers.
I got pissed.
Oh, all right. Shit. Do I have to wrap it up? Let me know if I have to wrap it up.
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. Because if you need to, then we can go and you can go take a pee and we can come back. We're almost like John Rogan because it's now time for Let the People Speak.
Okay, hang on. Okay, can you hang on a second?
Yeah, of course, man. We'll hang out. I'll go full screen, man. When you come back, you're ready. Hey, Buzz. Hey, folks. It's Ryan Roxie here. And obviously, I'm having pretty much the time of my life interviewing one of my guitar heroes, Mr. Rick Nielsen. If you are, look at all these guitars that he has, over 500 of them. Thank you so much for hanging out and listening to this entire interview that you have been. If you haven't subscribed right now to the channel, please do, because it's a cool show that we do here on In the Trenches with Ryan Roxie. Vic, you want to come on and say hello? This is our producer. You have a chance to even just, show your face, show your shirt, show you're a fanboy too. There he is.
Out. Oops.
There it is. I don't know. Now all of a sudden it's all messed up. Don't worry about it. Yeah. Don't worry about it. But how you think the interview is going so far?
This is awesome. Rick is amazing.
No, he's a great guy, and honestly, seriously, Cheap Trick is an institution, and I'm so happy that we're able to sort of celebrate all the sort of contributions they've had towards American pop culture.
Right.
He's back. So now we're starting.
All right.
Man. All right. So we were just shit talking a bunch on you. Sorry.
No, I just went pee. I didn't shit.
All right. So now look at this, fanboys. Yeah, a little bit. So Let the People Speak is a part where our folks in the chat get to ask some questions. And the first question is from Hannah Cope 88. Did you have fun supporting Def Leppard on their Hysteria tour in the UK, because you guys, what do you think about Europe in general?
Yeah, well, I like it. I mean, I tried to move to Europe years ago, and it was always, oh, it's too expensive. And every year it got more expensive, so I never went there. But I've been going to the Europe since '68. But yes, Def Leppard. Actually, a couple of days ago was Joe Elliott's birthday.
Yeah.
So I sent him a note, and he wrote back to me yesterday saying,
what did he say?
Said,
maybe you can put a good word in for Joe because we'll get him on the podcast as well, because he might have a story or two.
It says, I said, happy birthday, Joe. I'm planning on posting this fine video, latest work of my cinematography skills, which a fellow master critique of the fine arts, 2 thumbs up, way up. By and large, we had this magazine we're going to do. I'll let Joe, with your genius, hoping to continue, maintain, match, excel our high standards of greatness, a la by and large. And he wrote back to me, thank you, my friend. I have no idea what you're talking about, but it sounds very impressive.
You've been doing way too many cameos, Rick. That's the thing. You've been doing. I love it. I've been seeing them too.
Yeah?
Yeah, man. I've been watching some of them. I like it, man. It's good.
They're pretty disgusting, but
you got some time, man. You got some time, and why people really like it.
Yeah, I never advertise. I don't try to get, try to get more. It's like I've done like almost 300 of those things. I mean, that's nothing.
Yeah, that's a lot. I don't want to even do the math on that, but I also want to move in, and I need a real number on this. I need an authentic number, because at rad_dad_doogs ask, how many picks have you tossed into the crowd throughout your career? And we do need an exact number.
Okay, we do need an exact number. Well, let's put it this way. I order 60,000 at a time, and I order at least a couple times a year. So.
And you've been playing for over 50 years.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And it's like I said, for the first 2 years, there's one of my picks there. The first 2 years, everybody thought my name was Fender. That was before I had any picks, of course. But, yeah, I ordered 60,000 at a time.
All right.
So, do the math.
Well, you know what? I'm glad to say that, Rick.
And plus, I've never sold a pick. Not one. I mean, I look on eBay and I look at this. There's stuff by me or from me or whatever, but I've never sold one pick. I'd have like the Ryan Roxie kind of money if I would have sold picks, you know.
Man, dude, then you would have definitely needed to sell picks. Trust me, I've sold a couple of your picks.
Hey.
But this is a Robby Miller pick, by the way, folks. This is Robby Miller. He's a person on our team right there. So that's who I'm using right now. I should have had a Rick Nielsen pick today. I didn't.
Why would you think of that?
I know that would be almost overthinking it. There it is. Well, there it is. Dave Rattenbury's got about 59,500. So 1 year. That's not even a year's supply for you.
I just buy them from him.
Yeah, it's like 6 months supply.
I have 5 picks of Rick's, but no Ryan picks. Well, neither do I.
We love it. So moving on, at Heed_shoots_picks. Why does everybody have underscores in their names? But do you still have the Kiss records Mommy and Daddy played?
You betcha. Actually, I did I was on American Pickers, and they came out to one of my warehouses, and Frank, the guy with the beard.
Yep.
Not Frank Beard, but Frank, the guy with the beard. Frank Fritz. He was a big Cheap Trick or big Kiss fan, and I had the original, all 4 guys, the Kiss solo records, the one that I played on with Gene and
Cherokee Studios.
And Gene had sent it to me with all 4 things. I'd never opened it, and he says, "Hey, can I get that?" And I said, "Sure." I mean, I'm never listened to it, but I thought Gene would have gotten a kick out of it. I never heard from him after that.
That's amazing. That I've wondered about that line, because you did say your parents had a music store, and we know the history of that. Were they rock and roll fans, or was it a different type of music?
They weren't rock and roll fans, but they knew that that's what I liked. So they weren't like, my parents were sang opera and religious songs, but they weren't like fuddy-duddy kind of,
They supported the only child. Yeah, like my mom.
they like the good Rick Nielsen and they like the bad Rick Nielsen. Plenty of each.
Well, the bad Rick Nielsen that is a good Rick Nielsen, it turned into an amazing character that helped out a band, and that's what we're celebrating right now.
Yeah.
And Victoria Hansen 554 is asking, how is your new music going? Because you know what? I didn't get to talk to you about your new stuff that you're in the studio with right now. What's happening with the new music?
Well, let's see. You think it'd be a little more conducive to being creative at this time, but I found it's, when it's time to be creative, great. There you go. It didn't matter if there's a pandemic or if there's nothing going on or there's so many things going on. It's when you feel it, when you feel the urge, that's when you should write. I mean, I'm friends with Sting, and he gets up every day and tries to write a song. It's like, man, I just try to wake up. I don't care about that. It just seems like too much of a. You got to think too hard. It's like, of course, he sells so many way more records than I do. So maybe I should think a bit more. I don't know.
Well, I think it happens when you sort of make your name just one word. You have to sort of start writing songs every single day. I think Prince wrote a song every single day. Madonna probably writes with someone that writes a song every day.
Writes a song every day too.
I love it. So. Thank you for that. But is there new music coming out? Are you recording right? Because I do understand that fact that sometimes when you're inspired, that's when you have to do it. But have you been recording lately with the guys? And you mentioned on it briefly, but what's happening right now in the studio?
Well, actually, I just got a call from a guy that I know. Blah blah blah. You remember Paul Revere and the Raiders?
Of course.
Mark Lindsay, he wrote the song, and they asked me to play on a track. So they're sending me a track to play on because he's Mark Lindsay, the big fan of Cheap Trick, or fan of Rick Nielsen. What? Okay. So they sent it to me, and I'm going to play on it. I think next couple of days.
Nice, man.
Plus, we have 2 records coming out. We have 2 Cheap Trick records that are already done and ready to come out. So whenever the record company wants to release it, then we will.
I guess that's all done into planning of like, when are they going to turn? How are we going to do this with the pandemic? Is it a good time to put a record out, or is it not a good time? I think it's a good time because I think people are starved for good new music.
Yeah, I don't know.
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, well, it's like when whatever it's called, not Spotify. What's the Napster or whatever?
Yeah, when Metallica and Napster went to war.
Oh man, I got 8 million songs. I said, well, how are they? Well, I've heard 2, but my collection has 8 million. It's like, with guitars, I understand having way too many. But with getting stuff off the internet just to say you have it, I was not impressed.
Like you said, you've written almost 400 songs, and 8 of them they really stick out to you. So, do
you remember what I said? How about that, Ryan? Wow.
Hey, man, it's not vodka. It's water in here, man. I think.
Yeah, really.
Later it might be vodka. We'll see.
Wait a minute. Let's see. In Sweden right now, it's 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah, it's getting close to dinner time. You've done more than you've done way extra credit, Mr. Rick Nielsen. You've been on with us in the trenches I'm so happy that you spent this time. I have 2 more questions for you. Then I'm going to let you go. I'm going to put up your socials and get you guys all, not that you need it, but just get people out there to know how to get in touch with you, and they want to find out more and get those 2 new Cheap Trick records that are coming out. But there's another question, and this is actually kind of important for me to know. But at Jasper Schultz 69, because there was 68 of them before that. Why did you start playing guitar?
Well, I started out playing drums, and I started playing drums, and it's like, for whatever reason, I decided to start playing guitar. So I taught myself how to play guitar and keyboard.
Getting messages, huh?
I'm getting
more sessions.
Well, kind of. One is about Cameo.
Okay.
One is the conversion. I don't know. Who gives a crap?
Rick.
Yeah.
I started, well, I'll be in all truth be told, I started with the trumpet because my father played trumpet. But then my next instrument, I didn't really take it that seriously. But then it was the drums. I had a drum kit. I had a 5-piece Slingerland Tiger Stripe drum set. I wish I never would have sold it.
Well, I took drum lessons from the Rudiment King. His name was Frank Arsenault. If you look him up, he was on Ludwig Records. And I took lessons from him. And so I had this record when I was 9 years old. It says, to Richard, rudimentally yours, Frank Arsenault. It's like
a personal lesson?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And he was the Rudiment King. If you look him up on Ludwig Records. So I still I have about 6 sets of drums.
Okay. You have a Slingerland? Do you own any Slingerland sets?
I have Ludwig, Slingerland, and Leedy Ludwig.
Nice.
Yeah. I
took lessons.
And I have a set of orange drums too.
Nice.
Made in France. Those are rare. I was the first guy to buy an orange amp in 1968 from Cliff Cooper in London at it was called Orange Music Store, and that's where I bought my Mellotron. I bought that from Cliff Cooper in 1968 and had it shipped over to play and use on the Fuse album. How about that? First guy in America to have one.
So you're the first guy in America to have a Mellotron. That's like completely. That's groundbreaking because actually who was the first band to use it though? Wasn't it because we always kind of equate the Beatles as being that band, but there had to have been
the Beatles and the Moody Blues. Okay. And in the United States, I believe that after that, the Beach Boys and Stevie Wonder had one, and also CBS TV had one. But if you play on the original Mellotron, it was the left. It was there was a dual keyboard. It was the right-hand side of the keyboards, the very lowest note on the right-hand side of the keyboard. If you press the key down, it played the intro to Hey Bungalow Bill. Hey Bungalow Bill. That's on one note on the Mellotron.
Sounds like you know something about that band. So let me ask you, Rick, are you a Beatles fan?
Of course.
The stupidest question I've ever been asked.
Yeah. Are you sure it's not up real late over there in stock?
I'm joking. So anyway, our last question, and this is actually important.
Yay!
All right, sorry. Come on now, hang with me just a little while. Now, Rick Nielsen, our chat has been amazing. You guys have been amazing, hanging in there, asking amazing questions, putting up amazing comments. But at the Real Muddy Dog asks, how did you get that tone? All right. And there it is. How did you get that tone?
Well, I don't use pedals for one.
Even though you own 90 of them.
Yeah. I use, what I'm using is amps that I had built for me in 1977, I think it was, 77, 78, by Paul Rivera before he started the Rivera amps.
The Marshall mods, yeah.
You know, he used to do the Fender Deluxes and put a heavier transformer, a master switch or master volume, and a bigger speaker in it. And I had 6 of those made for me, and I still have 5 of them. And I blew one up. I still use them today.
I remember.
It's just I don't change my settings. I don't change my the tone setting. I don't do extra junk on it. That's it.
Your tone moves air, though. That's the thing about guys like you that have this sound and use these types of amps. You create distortion out of sheer volume. If it overdrives, it's out of a volume sort of thing, right?
Yeah. Well, remember when I played with you guys last year? I think it was.
Yeah.
I came to Rockford and I brought the guitar I brought. It's one of the guitars that's in my collection. It's a 1962 called Dwight cornet, which they're like Epiphone but Dwight cornet, and it has one pickup. It's like a P90 in it. And Alice came up to me and says, "That guitar sounds amazing." It's like, what is it? I said, "It's nothing, So I just plug in and that's it.
It's the guy playing it though, man. It really is. I honestly think though that you do have this, the way that you get your tone is that you move air. And I had that happen with Brian May. I had all these Marshalls come up. He comes up on stage with us to jam, and I had a bunch of Marshall stacks, and he comes up with one AC30, and his amp is completely louder than all of our, amps put together.
Good deal.
Yeah, it is. Well, hey, Rick, it's been great having you on. I know, I know that you got to get going, getting in the studio right now. But if people want to check you out right now on the old social media, I saw that you were on Instagram. I saw that you were on at Cheap Trick at Cheap Trick Rick, as well as at Cheap Trick Official. Is that Instagram, or where are you promoting these days, or do you promote it all? Do you need to?
I don't do it as much as I should, but I do it way more than I want to sometimes. Just ricknielsen.com or Cheap Trick Rick. It's like, and I feel bad because I'm looking at things. Oh, Rick, you have 800 messages. Oops.
I need to return some messages.
Answer these things. So once in a while I do, because I had Lizzie Hale and just a lot of different people say, oh man, what a prick I am. I mean, I don't even answer some of these people back. Oops. But it's like, I can't do the, hey, Rick, what'd you have for breakfast? Oh, I had an orange and I had a grape. It's like, who cares? So I don't have enough time to do interviews with you, let alone
I know, but you did, and you answered my call, and you answered my DM. Thank you very much for that, man. I appreciate it. And going out on Cheap Trick, I just have to ask that last question. Was it really?
Last one was the last question.
I know, but was it really the Slade? Was it really the Slade concert that you saw in England with Tom that said, that's where the name came up?
Yeah. See, Mike Dillon. Thank you, Joe. Love this. Joe Besser. Kelly, thank you. Great show. All these people. See, thank you guys. Great show. Yeah, we were at the where was it? The Spectrum in Philadelphia. And I saw Slade, and there's holy cow, those guys were. I like Slade. I mean, they were what was it? Quiet Riot before Quiet Riot.
Exactly. Mama, we're all crazy now. Come on, feel the noise. I hope I'm right. I hope I'm not getting it wrong with Mott the Hoople, but I think I am.
Yeah, good.
but was it Tom that said this band is using every cheap trick in the book?
Yep. And I said, boy, that's a good name. Our name of our band at that time was Sick Man of Europe. It's like how bad is that? That name was so bad.
That's what they call me.
Every time we said, what's the name of your band? Sick Man of Europe. What? If people say what after you, okay, Mike use it. Ricky else, they spell my name wrong. So if you have to tell people, explain what your name of your band is, it's probably not a good idea. So about 35 years later, we called one of our songs Sick Man of Europe. And that one it did really well in Europe.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
And now there are probably a lot of sick men in Europe right now that can relate to it.
You're one of them. Get back to sleep.
Thank you so much, Rick Nielsen, for being on In the Trenches. Folks, honestly, it's been a pleasure having you. Say hello to the family. Tell Karen thank you very much for loaning you out for a little bit. But I'm sure we'll see each other somewhere down the road, whether it's in an Alice Cooper dressing room or hopefully a Cheap Trick live show. I want to be there. Rick Nielsen of Cheap Trick. Folks, we've had him in the trenches. Thank you, Rick.
All right. Adios, amigos.
Hey, man. Until next time.
Send me the link so I can listen to this junk later.
You got it, man. Until next time, folks, enjoy the ride. Cheers.
In the Trenches with